What's going on, guys? Welcome into the Chiefs Zone podcast. My name is Farzin Vasugia, and happy Wednesday to all of you. Hope you're all having a great week as we're going back to back like Drake, 2 days in a row of the Chiefs Zone podcast. Hope you're all having a great summer as it's slowly starting to wind down, and we are 4 days away from Chiefs players reporting to training camp. And yeah, next thing you know, it's going to be football season. We're getting closer and closer. It's coming up pretty soon. And if you guys want to catch any of the football action, all you have to do is go check out my friends over at SeatGeek.com. That's where I get all of my Chiefs tickets, Royals, concerts, whatever it is you want to check out. Go to SeatGeek.com, get your tickets there, and new customers can put in my promo code Farzin, and you'll save $20 off your first purchase from SeatGeek. Once again, SeatGeek.com, get your tickets, and new customers can save $20 off their first order by entering my promo code Farzin at checkout. All right, on the docket for today's show, we have some breaking news involving the Kansas City Chiefs. Not as big as yesterday's news, but still, I would say somewhat significant here because this is a player that a lot of Chiefs fans had been talking about for a couple of years, and that is Justyn Ross. He has been released. Some of the details that came out about that earlier this afternoon. I also want to go over the Chiefs and their roster going into training camp, how it looks right now. What could the Chiefs potentially do now that they have 89 players going into training camp? Obviously, you have to get someone to come in and fill that roster spot that's open right now on the 90-man roster. Well, 89-man roster technically right now for the Kansas City Chiefs. Frank White, everyone's favorite county executive, he penned a letter to Governor Mike Kehoe. He wants to renew the 3/8 of a cent sales tax in Jackson County. But there's quite a caveat that comes with that. I'll tell you what that is, and kind of surprised me, no one in the media is talking about it. But I'll tell you guys all about it later on. And also, one NFL wide receiver making it very clear he's not happy about his current situation. All of that here on this episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. Let's start with the breaking news earlier this afternoon. The report from Tom Pelissero of NFL Network that Justyn Ross has been released. And according to Pelissero, Ross requested this from the Kansas City Chiefs. And quite honestly, I can understand where he's coming from. When you look at Justyn Ross, realistically speaking, when you look at the amount of reps he's going to get in practice and the amount he'll be involved in games, how much do you realistically expect from him? I mean, yeah, sure, he could be a good depth guy, but I don't think he wants to be a depth guy. Obviously, his situation is interesting because of the injury he suffered in college. The foot injury that forced him to miss the entire rookie season. And he played in 2023, hardly involved, played a little bit in 2024. I mean, this isn't a guy that the Chiefs realistically seem to have a lot of plans for in the short term or the long term future. And the reason I say that is the amount of snaps he had. Remember that year in 2023 when the Chiefs had all of these receivers dropping passes? Justyn Ross, a lot of people were saying, well, what about him? He didn't play in 2022, even though there was a lot of hype, coming off that college injury. And people thought that, once he bounces back from the injury, that he'd be able to play. Because a lot of people felt like he was a steal as an undrafted pick. The universal thought was that this is a first round pick, maybe second round pick if he did not suffer that foot injury. So what was the realistic expectation from Justyn Ross? I don't know, because the Chiefs put him on the practice squad after the preseason. When they were doing their roster cut from 90 to 53, Justyn Ross was put on waivers with the hope to put him back on practice squad. And what did I say? I said right then and there, I said, he's getting picked up. There's no way in hell he's coming back to the Chiefs practice squad. And oddly enough, he came back to Kansas City's practice squad. And that surprised me. There's no way the 31 other NFL teams see the name Justyn Ross go through the waiver wire and they say, yeah, we're just going to let that one slide. We're not interested. I thought, what's going on here? Now, I remember in 2023, and this is oddly right around the same time when the legal issue was going on with the domestic violence incident that he was arrested for. I remember, I think it was Albert Breer of SI in his article, his column, he was talking about how Justyn Ross' progress had been moving pretty slowly, and he was having a very difficult time picking up Andy Reid's offensive scheme in practice. Yet the Chiefs, I mean, they stood behind him during his legal matter, and they felt like he was good enough to stick around on the team, whether it was part of the 53-man roster or part of the practice squad. I still remember when the Chiefs elevated him from the practice squad a couple of times this year. I think it was a standard elevation, I think is what they call it, where you can put a guy on the main roster for a game or two through standard elevation, and then they go back to the practice squad. I remember when he was elevated for the weekend, right before game day, Chiefs fans were all ecstatic on Twitter. Oh, here we go, Justyn Ross. And he's had some highlights in the preseason, more so in the 2023 preseason. But we just never saw that whole... To go back to my point about 2023, also the year where everyone was dropping passes, Ross didn't play a whole lot that year. Yet he was contributing to the drop tally as well. I remember he had a couple of drops in the limited amount of snaps he played in 2023. It's unfortunate. I mean, Justyn Ross is a talented football player, might be one of the more talented wide receivers in the NFL right now. But unfortunately for him, the talent never translated into anything on the practice field. And as a result, the Chiefs weren't comfortable putting him on the main roster this past season. And they didn't allow him to play much this year. And keep in mind, last year was that year where the Chiefs, 2 years ago, that was when the Chiefs had the drops, and last year was when the wide receivers were getting hurt. Juju Smith-Schuster got hurt. Hollywood Brown almost missed the entire season. Rashee Rice missed almost the entire season. They go and get DeAndre Hopkins in a trade mid-season, but they never once considered putting Justyn Ross on the main roster. So I thought it was kind of interesting. And again, he was on the practice squad for really all of last year. And not one single NFL team. When someone's on the practice squad, the 31 other NFL teams can claim those players. That's how the Chiefs got Harrison Butker. He was just sitting on Carolina's practice squad his rookie year. Obviously, Carolina felt he was good enough to stick around on the practice squad as a backup kicker. Teams don't usually do a backup kicker, even on their practice squad, but just so happened that Butker was there, and Kansas City scored big when they got him to replace Cairo Santos. So I don't know why things didn't work out for Justyn Ross. I don't know why the scheme was hard to pick up in practice, but he certainly struggled with it. And I think from his standpoint, he wants to be able to play. He knows that there's not a lot of room for him on this football team, because look at who's on this team. Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice. Those are your three main wide receivers. Behind him, there's a lot of hype behind Jalen Royals. I think that's more fan speak than anything from actual scouts or insiders, so to say. Juju Smith-Schuster, obviously not the player he once was, but a player that the Chiefs really like, especially in his role right now with the Kansas City Chiefs. So you got five guys right there. Nico Remigio, I think, is going to be a guy that's going to automatically get a wide receiver spot, because I do think he's going to be a big part of your special teams unit. I know there's some talk about Worthy returning punts, maybe kickoffs as well, but I still think Remigio, I would not be surprised if Remigio and Worthy split time on that, but I'll get into that later on when we do our roster talk. But you know, I think at the end of the day, Remigio is going to be one of the wide receivers. So that's six right there. Who's the seventh guy going to be? I thought it could have been either between Sky Moore, Tyquan Thornton, or Justyn Ross, or maybe any of the other undrafted free agents that maybe could have been a surprise in training camp and in the preseason. Maybe a guy like Elijah Badger, Jason Brownlee. One of those guys, Jimmy Holiday, one of them, which, we don't know much about those guys, but we'll see in training camp next week and in the preseason games that'll come shortly afterwards. But yeah, I mean, Justyn Ross realistically did not seem like he was going to be above number 6 or number 7 on the depth chart. So this is a football team that granted his wish, and he's on his way out. And I think he deserves an opportunity elsewhere. He, again, like I said earlier, he could be one of the more talented players in the NFL. We don't know for sure until he gets an opportunity. That opportunity is just not going to be in Kansas City. Kansas City does not have time to give opportunities when they have the wide receiver group that they have. And that may be a harsh reality, but that is at the end of the day, the reality in Kansas City. And that's why he requested the release, and the Chiefs decided to grant it. Alex Polk 23 says, I think Sky Moore will be the next cut. Yeah, probably. Maybe not right now. Here's the thing with Sky Moore. And I'm not here to defend Sky Moore. I know he's not the most popular player amongst Chiefs Kingdom, but he does have a good skill set. You look at some of the scouting reports, things that he received coming out of college, his ability to catch and run, make defenders miss, those kinds of things. And all of that is great. But if you're not catching the football, the 9 other things that you can do don't even matter. The Chiefs are hoping that if he can improve on the catches, maybe he can show that he can do the other things on this roster. Sky Moore just has not panned. And the comparison I've always made, and I made this, about midway towards the second half, during the second half of the 2023 season, Rashee Rice was also a second-round pick, but a year later. So Sky Moore had been on this offense for 1 year more than Rice, both second-round picks, but Rice just picked up the offense way better and was executing. And listen, I'm not here to say every second round pick has to hit, but when that year, by the way, which, Rice had his struggles in 2023 as well, like the rest of the wide receivers, whether he was a rookie or not, he still had his struggles, but the Chiefs eventually figured out this is the wide receiver we want to go with. And Sky Moore's kind of low right now on the totem pole. So, Alex, I would not be surprised if Moore is going to be cut, either one of the first cuts when they trim the roster from 90 to 53. Sometimes you see cuts be made before the 90-man roster deadline, like right when that time is supposed to come. I would not be surprised if he's one of those preliminary cuts who gets cut about a week before the deadline. So that is the news for today from the Kansas City Chiefs, that the wide receiver star from Clemson, Justyn Ross, he is no longer a Kansas City Chief. Going to be taking his talents elsewhere, probably a team that's got a wide open competition for the wide receiver spots on their team. I would imagine Justyn Ross would want to go to a team like that, because you're not going to go to Philadelphia where they have a stacked group of wide receivers. You're not going to go to the Bengals where they have a lot of reliable options at the wide receiver position. Realistically, you might go to a team like, I don't know, Carolina. I mean, that's the first team that really comes to mind. Cleveland. I mean, it's a team that would not be good, because if Justyn Ross wants to prove, hey, I can play, go sign a 1 year or a 2 year contract with a bad football team, showcase yourself. And if you can do so for 2 years, then in a couple of years, you'll be able to demand a lot of money in free agency. So that's the route he has to go at this point. All right, let's talk about some roster stuff for the Kansas City Chiefs as they are getting ready for training camp in just a few days, less than a week. Let's start with the wide receiver group. Let's start with the wide receiver group, since that's where we were. You have Rashee Rice coming back from an injury. You have Hollywood Brown coming back from an injury. You have Xavier Worthy, who had a really good second half to his rookie season, very similar to the way Rashee Rice improved during his rookie season. And I think this is the wide receiver group Patrick Mahomes needs. This is what we talked about all last offseason. Rice coming off his rookie year, Hollywood and his speed, Worthy as a rookie, his speed being a slot receiver. But that's not how things worked out. Because of the Hollywood injury in the very first preseason snap, Rice got hurt a couple of weeks into the season, and Worthy was thrust into this position where he was relied on to do the things that Hollywood Brown and Rashee Rice were asked to do. So he had a very difficult rookie season during the first half. And I think DeAndre Hopkins coming in certainly helped him take some pressure off of him. Juju Smith-Schuster got involved in some games, but did miss some time because of injuries. And I think that's also a big reason why the Chiefs drafted Jalen Royals. Like I said earlier, I guess as long as he's still on the team, the jury's still out on Sky Moore, but I think it's also fair to say he's right now on thin ice. I mean, this is not someone who has lived up to expectations at all. The drops have been an issue. No question about it. Tyquan Thornton, I'm really intrigued to see in training camp. If there's a wide receiver I really want to see in training camp, just to see how they are outside of Rice, I really want to see Tyquan and in preseason. What is that guy capable of? Because you know who Tyquan Thornton right now reminds me of? He reminds me of Byron Pringle. Remember Byron Pringle, the wide receiver from K-State? He was, I think he was well, let me look this up to be sure. But I remember seeing Byron Pringle in the 2018 preseason. And he looked really good that year. And yeah, he was a rookie in 2018, undrafted out of K-State. I remember special teams, wide receiver. He was doing some good things that impressed a lot of people. But unfortunately, he suffered an injury in the final preseason game and was placed on IR and missed the entire year. He came back in 2019. Now, I'm not going to say he was a star wide receiver, far from it, but Byron Pringle did some things that really helped Kansas City's offense, I felt like. Certainly provided good depth in that wide receiver room. Behind Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, McCole Hardman, DeMarcus Robinson. Remember that crew? The Legion of Zoom is what they called it back then. And I don't think Pringle really got the credit he truly deserved during his time in Kansas City. I think Tyquan Thornton right now has that Byron Pringle in him, where he's kind of an unknown commodity. Things that don't work out in New England. Then again, a lot of things have not worked out in New England over the last couple of years. So I don't think it's fair to hold that against him, but he's got an opportunity here in Kansas City to show that. And if there's a coach in the NFL that can use a guy like Tyquan Thornton and utilize his skill set, it's Andy Reid. Let's be honest here. Andy Reid will find a way to utilize him. When it comes to, because let's be honest, the preseason, the only time you really care about starters are those who are coming off of an injury, like Hollywood Brown and Rashee Rice, as well as rookies like Josh Simmons, who's coming off an injury and is a rookie as well. But Tyquan Thornton, when it comes to the second string, third string players, I want to see Tyquan Thornton. He's wearing number 2. Now, maybe that changes, but for right now, it's number 2. And that's a player that I think you should all be aware of and just watch closely. If you are out there in St. Joe for training camp, or if you're just going to watch your preseason games, that's a player that I'm going to be keeping my eye on. I know a lot of people want to see Elijah Badger as well. I'm more interested in Thornton than Badger. Let's go to the tight end group. And this is going to be a very interesting season because I think Travis Kelce, maybe not statistically speaking, but I think in terms of his overall involvement will get better. Noah Gray had his best season last year. And not only did the Chiefs extend him early in the season, very early in the season, I can't remember if it was right before the season opener or if it was the day after, but they extend Noah Gray. And he's got quite a good season. Had back-to-back games where he had a pair of touchdown catches against the Bills. He had 2 touchdown grabs. And then a week later in Carolina had 2 touchdown grabs. Jared Wiley, I know the Chiefs really like Jared Wiley. Unfortunately, suffered that season-ending knee injury. 4th-round pick coming out of TCU last year. So his rookie campaign was cut short. And he'll have an opportunity to come back. He got some involvement in OTAs and mandatory minicamp. So we'll see what happens there. who's going to be that fourth tight end if they decide to go four tight ends. Robert Tanyan's a possibility. Jake Brittingstool, Trey Watson, GQ Spivey. You've got some options there at the tight end spot, and I think that's what the Chiefs are looking forward to the most with that position group, is to see of those four, or unless they bring someone else, because there is an open roster spot right now, who could that fourth tight end be behind Wiley? The running back position group is very interesting to me because you have Isaiah Pacheco coming back, and he just was not himself when coming back from an injury. You have Kareem Hunt, who statistically speaking didn't thrive, but he did a lot of things that don't show up on the stat sheet. I think without Kareem Hunt, you don't start off the season 9-0. You don't. Kareem Hunt really did help give the Chiefs offense a nice little jolt that they desperately needed when Pacheco got hurt, when Hollywood got hurt, Rice got hurt, and he brought that to Kansas City's offense in the second chance that he got with this football team last year. You have Elijah Mitchell, and I was a little worried that with Elijah Mitchell signing that it would spell the end of Kareem Hunt. No, they ended up signing Elijah Mitchell and Kareem Hunt. This is pretty interesting because Pacheco, Hunt, and Mitchell all have 1 year left on their deal. Pacheco's on a rookie deal. Hunt signed a 1 year deal. Mitchell signed a 1 year deal. I'm really curious to see the future of the running back position group, but that's nothing to be concerned about too much right now. They did draft Brashard Smith, from SMU in the 7th round. He had the third fastest scouting combine, third fastest 40 time at the scouting combine among running backs. What can a guy like Brashard Smith do? They also have Elijah Young, undrafted, and Carson Steele's part of the team as well. I know some people consider him a fullback. I do, at least, but they use him like a running back. I'm not sure if there's going to be a lot of room for Carson Steele here. He might need to have another preseason similar to what he had last year in order to make the team, and that would put the Chiefs in a very difficult spot. Who do they put? Because I don't see them carrying 5 running backs. I don't see them carrying 5 running backs. They would have to decide between probably Elijah Mitchell and Carson Steele. Otherwise, I think 4, and I think that's still too many, but I can't see them going away from Pacheco, Hunt, Mitchell, and Smith if they're all unscathed and healthy going into the regular season. I just don't see them doing that. Let's go to the quarterback position group. Obviously, you have Patrick Mahomes, Gardner Minshew getting some love today from the Chiefs and the NFL with his media photo shoot. You have Bailey Zappi, who the Chiefs really like. They brought Bailey Zappi last year, but because of so Bailey Zappi ended up being the practice squad quarterback, parting ways with Chris Oladokun. But because of the Deshaun Watson injury in Cleveland, Cleveland obviously had to do some shifting at the quarterback position, and that led them to take Bailey Zappi off of Kansas City's practice squad and putting him on Cleveland's team. He also has a little bit of starting experience with the New England Patriots. That's always good to have. Gardner Minshew has some starting experience as well, some significant experience as well for Minshew. You never want to say this, but if Patrick Mahomes gets hurt, I think Gardner Minshew might be the best backup quarterback the Chiefs have had since Chad Henne. Wasn't really a big fan of Blaine Gabbert, and I was just kind of surprised with how much hype he got coming out of Mizzou, being drafted as high as he did. You have Carson Wentz. Is Carson Wentz even on a football team right now? I don't think he is. I don't see Carson Wentz on a football team. No, that's a bit of a surprise to me. I mean, he's team hopped quite a bit since the Eagles let him go. Colts in 21, Commanders 22, Rams 23, Chiefs 24. And listen, he's had a good attitude about it. I know several times when he got met with the media, the questions came, oh, well, your career hasn't gone the way you wanted it to. That's always fun to hear, but that is a reality for Carson Wentz. But I do think Gardner Minshew is the better option. Now, everyone wants to know this offensive line. We went over this yesterday with Trey Smith extension, but we'll go over it one more time here. You have Creed Humphrey at the center spot, anchoring the offensive line, and Trey Smith at right guard. His Robin to Batman, essentially. He's the Robin to Creed Humphrey. Juwan Taylor at right tackle, inconsistent with his pass blocking. The penalties definitely need to be cut down. Kingsley Suamataia, I just feel good about him with his size and stature playing left guard. He's what, 6'5", 325. I think that's better suited as a left guard. I think the speed of the game was just too much for him at left tackle. The pass rushers, edge rushers, they're too much these days. They're running a 40 time that you just never saw, or at least didn't see much of about 20, 30 years ago. These left tackles, and right tackles as well, but I say left tackles more because most quarterbacks are right-handed, so the left tackle serves as the blind spot for a lot of QBs. They've got to be able to keep up with those fast edge guys. Some of them are running 4.5 40 times. So hopefully Josh Simmons is the solution there while Kingsley can rebound at left guard. I feel optimistic. I felt the same way last year, though, with Kingsley at left tackle. Kingsley looked really good in camp last year, more so in the run blocking than he did in pass blocking. As far as depth goes, Jalen Moore, that's the one guy a lot of people should watch in training camp. If Juwan Taylor struggles at any point during the season, Jalen Moore is on speed dial to fill in for Taylor. If Josh Simmons does not live up to expectations, then yeah, maybe Jalen Moore fills in there and maybe they try out Simmons at right tackle. He played some right tackle in college, not the best experience. He's far better as a left tackle. I don't think that needs to be something we should be worried about, but I think more on speed dial for right tackle would be something to consider. You know who I really like on this offensive line? Is Hunter Norzad. He's the backup center, and he played in that Week 18 Denver game. One of the very, very, very few bright spots in that game was Hunter Norzad. His snapping was not very good, but his pass blocking was great. And keep in mind, that's a Broncos defense that, number one, was fighting to get into the playoffs. So that game meant a lot to them. They were playing with everything they had. And number two, that's a Broncos defense that led the league in sacks. So it's not like Hunter Norzad was also going up against backups. No, I mean, this was a good test for Hunter Norzad, as well as Kingsley Suamataia, who played a lot of left guard in that game. I liked what I saw from Hunter Norzad. That if you guys have the all 22, or if you have any way of going back and watching that Broncos game, and I know not as exciting as it was, watch Hunter Norzad. He actually, in my opinion, was the best Chiefs player in that game, minus the snaps. I think this guy could be an option at left guard if Suamataia does not live up to expectations there. Mike Caliendo, I know he's got some starting experience, some good moments and some bad moments from Mike Caliendo. CJ Hansen, another guy who the Chiefs drafted last year in day 3 of the draft. They drafted Hunter Norzad in day 3 in the 5th round, and then CJ Hansen in the 7th round. Wanye Morris, again, some starting experience. He's currently listed as the backup right tackle, played some right tackle last year as well. And got some other players, Chuck Godric, who's been around a couple of years, Ethan Driscoll as well. Some backups there for the Kansas City Chiefs on that offensive line. So we'll see what the Chiefs do with that going into training camp and in the preseason. So that is the Chiefs offense. Let's switch over to the Chiefs defense here. A defense that I'm really excited to see. Obviously, they were second in sacks in 2023, but they dropped to 18th after having 18 fewer sacks in 2024. Can the Chiefs bounce back when it comes to their sack total? Obviously, it starts at the trenches there. We know who the main guy is. It's Chris Jones. Chris Jones anchors that defensive line. And I know his sack numbers were nothing to be excited about, but he was second among all interior defensive linemen in quarterback pressures. One of the best defensive linemen in all of football last year. The problem was the Chiefs they got a lot of pressures. They just could not get to the quarterback quick enough. And I think the good part about the Chiefs draft is they got some guys who can go after the quarterback. They got Omar Norman Lott, who had the best pass rush win rate among defensive tackles last year. Ashton Gelati was a top 10 edge rusher last year in terms of getting to the quarterback, pressuring quarterbacks. You have Charles Omenihu, who I think can do some really good things. You have Mike Dana, who the Chiefs really like. I liked him better in 23. Didn't see much from Dana in 24, but he's done enough to stick around on the team. You have Felix Anudike-Uzomah, who's had flashes, but you never want flashes from a first-round draft pick. Even if he was the 31st and last selection of the draft that year, you still want some consistency from your first-round draft pick, and you haven't had that with FAU, not yet. He deserves some credit for that Super Bowl against the 49ers. Had a couple of good run stuffs against Christian McCaffrey, who was the best running back that season. But again, only flashes from FAU so far. You have Jerry Tillery, who has some veteran experience across the NFL, most recently with Minnesota. Fabian Lovelet, Marlon Tupiolodu, a couple of guys, Malik Herring. Got some football players on here. I don't see BJ Thompson. Is he still on reserve? Yeah, he is still on the non-football injury-related list. Obviously, he had that health issue last year, so we'll see what direction the Chiefs want to go in with BJ Thompson and if he's going to be able to participate in training camp this year. But this defensive line's good. I mean, in a 4-3 set, I would love to see the Chiefs field a defense that has Karlaftis, Jones, Omar Norman Lott, and Ashton Gelati at some point. Obviously, you know, with defensive linemen, they'll rotate guys a lot. And by the way, a guy I forgot to mention, Mike Pennell, a very underrated player. I remember when he resigned, I was pretty excited. And so were some Chiefs fans. He's someone that's done a really good job against the run. Derek Nottie had some moments against the run, but overall just wasn't a good defensive lineman. And that's why the Chiefs decided to move on from him, let him walk to the Jets, if I'm not mistaken. But Pennell, I think this is someone who's going to play a lot more, or at least be your day one starter when you play the Chargers in Brazil. So I'm excited to see what this defensive line is going to look like. The linebackers, another exciting position group right there. Nick Bolton, who once again considered one of the best linebackers in the league. This dude's ability to stop running backs is a huge reason why Kansas City did not allow a single running back to rush for 100 yards. The only 100-yard rusher last year was Lamar Jackson. So I'm excited to see what Nick Bolton's going to do, coming back now with his new deal, now being a full-fledged veteran on this football team. You have Leo Chenal, who's entering the last year of his rookie deal. Very underrated as a linebacker, in my opinion. I think this is a guy, if he wanted to play some edge, he could do that. The Chiefs have lined him up a couple of times there, if you've noticed. This is a guy who can get after the quarterback. He's gone after the quarterback sometime. And I know Bolton, not the best coverage guy. Tranquil took a little bit of a step back. If you recall last year, that was when the linebackers really struggled in coverage. All of them really, especially against tight ends. So hopefully the Chiefs can improve on that. Drafting Jeffrey Bossa, who was, Rose Bowl MVP a couple of years ago with Oregon. You have Jack Cochran, who's been a big part of your special teams. Cole Christensen, who's still sticking around on that defense, also been part of special teams. Leo Chenal, obviously a big part of special teams. The PAT block in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, the block against Denver to help the Chiefs seal the win. Those were huge. And I'm curious to see how many running backs they go with. My guess would be 5 or 6. I would imagine the 3 backups would be Bossa, Cochran, and it's going to be either Cam Jones or Cole Christensen for the other spot there. All right, let's go to the safety position as we go further back and start looking into the Chiefs secondary. You have Jaden Hicks, who's now going to be in. Brian Cook, who's been a starter on this team for a couple of years. You have Shamari Connor, who's played a lot of different spots in the secondary, both as a corner and as a safety. Mike Edwards coming back to Kansas City. I think that's huge. I don't think it's getting talked about as much. Mike Edwards was a big part of Kansas City's secondary in 2023. Went to Tampa Bay, now back in Kansas City. and I'm excited to see what he's going to do. Deion Bush has been around for a couple of years. Most recently, he what was it, 22? I think it was the same day. Oh, I remember now. Yeah, it was the same day Tyreek Hill was traded. He tweeted saying Chiefs Kingdom, what's up? Because he had just officially signed his contract. He picked a really bad day to tweet that because that was the same day Tyreek Hill got traded, and he made kind of a joke about that, which I thought was pretty funny. But yeah, Deion Bush has been around for a couple of years. Could the Chiefs carry 5 safeties? I don't know. 5 seems a bit much. Let's look at the quarterback position and maybe to that. You have Trent McDuffie. No need to go over his capabilities. We all know what he can bring to the table. They signed Christian Fulton in the offseason to a 2-year deal. Jalen Watson missed some time last year, a player whose presence they definitely missed in the secondary because he was doing a good job filling in or replacing rather L'Jarius Sneed. But once he was hurt, man, they had some struggles. That's why they drafted Noel Williams in the 3rd round. You have Josh Williams, who, in my opinion, took a step back last year. Najee Johnson, not a good cover corner, despite Spags being so high on him for so many years. Finally got a chance to see him last year, avoiding injury, but it just did not work out for Kansas City. Fantastic blitzer. I mean, Najee Johnson has good speed for a cornerback, and we know Spags loves to blitz with those linebackers and those defensive backs. The Chiefs run the nickel and dime package more than any defense in the league the last 2 years. And Najee Johnson is a guy who's gotten involved in a lot of those packages. That's where Najee Johnson's strengths are. But you can't just have a quarterback and his sole duty is to just blitz. You can't do that. Trent McDuffie, another guy who's capable of blitzing as well. We've seen that. We've seen them send Nick Bolton, Leo Chenal. I'm excited to see this defense again because I think they're going to have a better defensive line. I really do. And I think that'll help them improve their sack numbers this year, especially when they do that blitz. Because when the Chiefs blitzed 2 years ago on 3rd down, it worked a lot of times. The biggest one, which wasn't a sack, was Trent McDuffie in the Super Bowl getting a handoff for a pass deflection, forcing the 49ers to kick a field goal, and that allowed the Chiefs to have ample time to orchestrate a good drive inside 2 minutes and tie the game. Almost won the game before regulation, but hey, they found an epic way to get the win anyway. I'm curious to see what Noel Williams is going to do. Led college football players in interceptions last year. Yeah, the Chiefs have some really good rookies. They have a really solid draft. I'm curious to see how this draft pans out, but Christian Roland Wallace, a guy who got involved with the defense quite a bit, had a couple of interceptions. Can Josh Williams bounce back? It's going to be an interesting year for the cornerbacks. If McDuffie and Watson stay healthy, if Fulton lives up to the hype, this is going to be a good group. Noel Williams, I know a lot of people would like to see more of. The 2 guys I want to see the most on this defense in the preseason, number 1 is Omar Norman Lott. Number 2 is Noel Williams. Those are the 2 guys I'm curious to see the most. So that is your Chiefs defense there. Let's quickly go over special teams. You have Matt Araiza, who's your punter, but it looks like there's actually some serious competition for that punting spot because Eddie, and I don't know how you say his last name, Chapliki or Zapliki, however you say it, maybe the C is silent. He's still around. This is an undrafted punter. From USC. What could be the reason why he's still on the team? I think with Matt Araiza specifically, the problem with Matt Araiza, and we all know he's got a cannon for a leg, but Matt Araiza did struggle with directional punting last year. You don't just go out there and show off your leg. He had a lot of touchbacks last year. In fact, I think he may have been among one of the league leaders in touchbacks. I know it's not a stat anyone really gives a damn about, but field positioning is pretty important in the NFL. Let me see how many touchbacks he had. I'm looking at team stats. Well, the Chiefs co-led the league in touchbacks with 9. I don't recall anyone else punting for the Chiefs last year other than Matt Araiza. Yeah, let me see if I can do it individually. Okay, so Michael Dixon of the Seahawks had 9 touchbacks and Matt Ariza had 9 touchbacks. So yeah, Matt Ariza did tie the league in touchbacks last year. That's not a stat you ever want to lead the league in, ever. So hopefully he can improve on that. And I think Matt Ariza will be a more complete punter, especially. And listen, Dave Tobe's your special teams coordinator. So you'll improve under Dave Tobe. I'd be surprised if Matt Ariza was the odd man out here. You have James Winchester, one of the best long snappers to do it. He's been around a very long time, second longest tenured Chief on the team. And then you've got Harrison Butker, a little bit of a step back last year, but still one of the better kickers in the league. 2023 was a phenomenal season for Butker. He should have been an All-Pro, but for some reason wasn't. He only missed 2 kicks last year, and they were both in back-to-back weeks. Never missed a PAT that entire year. Pretty good season last year. Still not as good as 2023, but good overall. As far as return specialists go, you have Nico Remigio, you have Carson Seal, who's returned some kickoffs. Xavier Worthy's name is being involved. Brashard Smith. Who else am I missing here? Nico Remigio, Brashard Smith, Xavier Worthy, Carson Steele. Yeah, those are going to be the guys we see on punt and kickoff returns. So we'll see what the Chiefs want to do there. But that is your Chiefs roster going into training camp. Chris says, do you feel with the right protection for Mahomes that we could see the return of the high explosive offense? Yes. It may not be, as many deep passes as we saw to Tyreek Hill. I think it'd be very similar to 2022, where Patrick Mahomes had his MVP season that year, but did not need a number 1 wide receiver to thrive. I don't think it'll be like 2018. That's what I predicted last year. I'm not going to dismiss the possibility of having a similar offense to 2018. That would involve some serious deep throws, and maybe that happens. But let me make it clear. It will happen. I don't know if it'll happen at the same rate as we saw in 2018 with Watkins and obviously Tyreek Hill and some of McCole Hardman. Or no, McCole Hardman was 2019. 2019. But still, the point still stands. I do think, that's the thing, Chris. If that protection is there, Patrick Mahomes, I think, is going to have a great season. I think everyone's anticipating that. Let me see if there are any questions on Instagram here. I don't see any. Gregory72 asks, do you think Sky Moore stays on the team? I don't. I think I'll give it a 5% chance, but I'm not expecting much from him. Ogle says, let's not begin the season with a suspect offensive line again. We all see how that ended. Yeah. You feel pretty good about it right now, but I said the same thing last year. So I don't know. Josh Simmons just feels different because of the fact that he's a first round pick, a guy who should have been drafted earlier. You're just hoping he's healthy. Just hoping he's healthy. Stone Cold Jones will lead the defense and will have a big year. I hope so. I know he was talking about 20 sacks and all that stuff last year and didn't even get half of that, but still did a lot of great things. I know I would see some comments, people saying, why is Chris Jones not doing anything? Well, if you're judging just off stats like sacks, okay, sure. But there's more to being a defensive lineman than just getting sacks. Sacks are great and you want them. But not having that coverage there prevented the Chiefs. And a big reason why their sack total dropped last year compared to the year before. Gwen says, I'm sad about Justin Reed. Yeah, that's a very significant loss, but he was going to, he was due for another big payday. So didn't surprise me the Chiefs let him walk as much as they hated it. But man, he had 3 great years in Kansas City. 3 really good years in Kansas City. We need to extend George Karlaftis, Leo Chanel. Yeah, that 2023 draft class, you got a lot of guys to work on. I don't know if you're going to be able to get all of them. McDuffie and Karlaftis, those are 2 big ones. I don't think Karlaftis is in position to demand a big deal as an edge rusher because he hasn't played like a top 10 pass rusher, not yet. Well, if he plays like one though this year, it'd be huge for the Chiefs. And That would put him in an interesting spot with his contract. McDuffie's going to get a big deal, though. He is for sure. Chiefs will be back in the Super Bowl. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Muskie, that is correct. The report is he was asked for he requested his release, so not a surprise there. Hey, before we move on here, and I appreciate all the questions here, I do want to let you guys know about an event taking place tomorrow, and that is the Kansas City Charity Pickleball event, the inaugural Kansas City Charity Pickleball event. This is hosted by Chiefs backup former wide receiver Garrick Dieter and also Chiefs tight end Noah Gray. They are going to be a part of this hosting. This is also with Team Lammy for a great cause. MOMAC, Variety, raising money for those charities there. Tickets are still available. So if you guys want to take part in this, I am commenting with the link right now. And for those of you watching from home, on your smart TV, wherever, on your phone, take a screenshot, take a picture of that QR code. That'll take you to where you can get tickets. And if you're listening to the audio version, it's kansascitycharitypickleball.com. That's where you can get your tickets. Tickets are still available. And by the way, you can take part in the pickleball tournament. Word on the street is Anthony Sherman will participate in a American wrestling singlet. That should intimidate his opponents for sure. So if you are a pickleball player and you're not intimidated that easily, you want to compete against Anthony Sherman and some other people, maybe some current former Chiefs that'll be there. Hey, why not take part in it? By the way, you got a couple of Chiefs who will be there. Jaden Hicks and Mike Pinnell will be present at the event. So make sure you guys check that out. Different ticket packages, including meet and greets. Check it out. I have the link there for you. Again, it's kansascitycharitypickleball.com. Another event to be aware of is the Duran Cherry Foundation Game Day Watch Party that is going to take place on September the 5th. So if you're not going to Brazil, which is probably almost all of you, you guys can join Duran Cherry in his watch party that'll take place at Holiday Distillery in Western Missouri. You can rub elbows with Duran Cherry and some other Chiefs alumni. The guest list will come out as we get closer and closer to September the 5th, which is, of course, the season opener for the Chiefs, obviously on a Friday. And you'll be able to watch the game with some Chiefs fans as well as some Chiefs alums there, including Chiefs Hall of Famer Duran Cherry. The ticket to the link is right there on flipcause.com. So if you guys are watching on Facebook, YouTube, I just commented with the link right there. And we'll post it as we go on. Have a little under 2 months before then. So plenty of time. We'll get the word out about that. If you didn't get a chance to click on the link during the podcast. All right. Couple things here before we wrap up the podcast. I'm sure you guys all heard about this. Frank White made some news. Now, Frank White's been in the news quite a bit lately. Former Kansas City Royals legend, Royals Hall of Famer. He, part of that 1985 World Series team, not so popular off the field as county executive in Jackson County, especially with the property tax going on in Jackson County, a lot of things. There's recently been enough signatures for a petition to put Frank White's name on a ballot to recall him, essentially eject him from being Jackson County executive. Now, he's trying to push back a little bit because it is supposed to be on the ballot, I believe, for late August. Let me pull up the date to be exact. August the 26th, which is a Tuesday. So, yeah, that fits. August the 26th. He wants this to get pushed back to November. And the Chiefs, they want to... Well, they're considering putting, and let me rephrase that, not the Chiefs, but more so Jackson County, per a potential request from Mark Donovan, to try to get some funding from the city and the county for Arrowhead renovations. That's one option that they could explore. And Mark Donovan's preferred date is April of 2026. which is a problem because Kansas wants an answer, a final answer, by December 31st, 2025. That'll be quite the countdown going into 2026. Now, Frank White, he penned a letter to Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe saying that he wants to renew the 3/8 of a cent sales tax in Jackson County for the Chiefs, because that's what the Chiefs and the Royals are on right now. That 3/8 of a cent sales tax. However, this comes with a lot of caveats that the local media is not even talking about. Of that 3/8 of a cent sales tax, he wants to split that into three. 1/3 of it goes to the Chiefs, which would be less than what they're getting right now. 1/3 for a downtown courthouse. That's interesting. And 1/3 for University Health. And for some reason, we have to tie all of these together into one. The Chiefs, and I get with this stadium stuff, a lot of politics get involved here, but you are tying in, you're handcuffing the Chiefs to a downtown courthouse and a University Health deal. If you want this 3/8 of a cent sales tax, well, it's got to be tied in with that downtown courthouse and University Health. Oh, and by the way, if this passes, we'll only give you 1/3 of that 3/8 of a cent. And I'm no mathematician, but that's less than what the Chiefs are getting right now. Yeah, there's no way in hell the Chiefs are going to agree to that. Now, how does that get on? But Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe is going to push back on that a little bit. There's no way in hell he wants that on any ballot. That is ultimately the perfect way to push the Chiefs to the state of Kansas. You want to speed run how to lose the Chiefs? Put that on the ballot. Chiefs are not going to agree to that. You can put it on the ballot and say this is what you're going to offer, but the Chiefs are not going to accept it. No way. That's not what they want. I mean, that's a spit in the face offer, really, to the Chiefs. Now, again, it's nothing that's formally official, but that is something that Frank White's pushing for. Oh, and by the way, of that, 3/8 of a cent that he wants to split into three does not include the Royals. Listen, you know who really needs a Hail Mary and a jet chip wasp and a couple of onside kick recoveries? The Royals. Okay, maybe they're not the best analogy for a baseball team. Okay, they need several home runs in the bottom of the ninth. That's what they need. Because, and that's more so Jackson County, because I know the Mayor Quentin Lucas, is so big on Washington Square Park and downtown baseball. That area, first of all, is too small. Second of all, the Royals really don't look like they've made any progress with KC Mo and specifically downtown KC. The Royals want out of the Truman Sports Complex. They're done with that place. They're done with the K. There's that North Kansas City proposal that's being put together. Honestly, at this point, it's between North KC and Overland Park. There hasn't been any actual traction of the Royals and the Legends. The downtown thing does not look like it can work logistically. So it's either North KC or Overland Park. The Royals are no longer going to be in KC Mo. I mean, listen, the Royals. I saw the news piece on Fox 4 about how the anonymous source is saying that if the Royals leave, it's all Quentin Lucas' fault. Let's slow down there. And listen, I don't know who the source was. Was it Frank White? Was it someone from within the Royals? I have no idea. Was it Kevin Keatsman? Maybe. But here's my thing. The Royals have no one to blame but themselves. Does Mayor Quentin Lucas deserve some of the blame if one or both teams leave? Yes. He does not deserve all of the blame. The Royals kept changing their plans weeks leading up to the vote. That was not a Mayor Quentin Lucas issue. That was not a Frank White issue. That was a John Sherman and the Kansas City Royals issue. And they claimed, yeah, we're talking to businesses at the crossroads. No, you weren't. Not according to those business owners there. They said, hell no. Hell no, this is a lie. I mean, it seems like the Royals have something that they really want to put together in North KC. But I don't know. I'm still curious what happens here, because I think the Overland Park location is a good location. It's kind of an obscure place. North Kansas City, you're still close to downtown. But the Royals, I hope whatever proposal they have with North KC, they're approaching it far more professionally than they did with the April vote last year with the crossroads. Hopefully that was some sort of a learning lesson to them. Listen, I see the comments. Oh, people in Jackson County voted and said they don't want the Chiefs and Royals. No, they didn't say that they don't want the Royals. That's not what they said. They said this is a bad proposal and the campaign is bad. Mayor Quentin Lucas the next day on local radio admitted the campaign was bad, and the Royals are a big part of that. I don't think the Chiefs are free of any criticism, though. Their proposal was not really the most exciting for $800 million, now $1.15 billion. We'll see what difference they'll have with their renovation proposal, but the Royals have no one to blame but themselves if things don't go the way they want it to go, which we don't know exactly what that is. Yeah, they have the contract for the land there for the mortgage at the Asperia campus. They even confirmed that, but what are they going to do with that exactly? I don't know. Not exactly sure. But yeah, Frank White, he wants them gone. Listen, there's no big secret here, but Frank White does have a vendetta against the Royals because he was not picked to be the manager or be a big part of that Royals team back in 2009 when they went with Trey Hillman. A little insider, I'll pull back the curtain a little bit here, but when I worked for the Royals, for those of you who know, I was part of the stadium production crew. I was the DJ for 4.5 years. Also did some other things as well. I was actually the fill-in DJ, but the guy who did it the most, he had a lot of he had a crazy schedule, so I filled in a lot. And then I was able to do more. Did the video board, LED boards, different games. So got involved a lot. My very first day working for the Royals, it was the 2015 opening day game, and Frank White was present. And our cameraman, they noticed him because, obviously, you got the game, but there are a bunch of cameras at the stadium, some for the TV crew, some for the stadium crew. But they're able to use each other's camera shots if they want, especially on a replay. But Frank White was noticed by one of the camera operators, and the director in the control room said, do not put him up on the video board, because the Royals like to put up local Royals or former Royals Chiefs players who are present at the games. They avoided Frank White. And I know with new ownership, maybe things have smoothed over a little bit, but Frank White seems to still hold that big vendetta against the Royals, whether he wants to admit it or not. When they were doing the 1985 team celebration earlier this summer, when they introduced Frank White, man, he got booed. I'm not surprised. It was a celebratory moment there. The 1985 is a special team here in Kansas City, but boy, that just tells you what the people of Jackson County really think. And there's a reason why he's trying to push back and try to delay having this on a ballot, because he knows he's going to get canned. This would be a blowout. But politicians do have more power than some of us may realize. So no pickleball injuries for Noah. Yeah, Garrick told us that Noah is a questionable participant. Which makes sense because it's right before training camp. So he might just be there for the enjoyment of the event. We'll see. But yeah, I do encourage you guys to go if you guys get a chance. It is going to be a fun event at Chicken and Pickle in North KC, which is where the Royals might go. Yeah, that's certainly a possibility. One last thing before we get out of here, and this has been getting a lot of attention lately, and it's the wide receiver for the Washington Commanders, Terry McLaurin, who spoke to the media and made it very, very clear he's not happy with the way things are. He wants to get a deal. He's basically put a base in the Washington, D.C. area, but the contract negotiations are not going the way he would like. Nothing wrong with that. And listen, you're seeing Trey Hendrickson do this, Shamar Stewart, which that's a whole disaster. You're seeing a lot of players willing to speak about the contract negotiations not going the way they wanted to go. Here's my thing with Washington right now, because this is a team that is on the rise right now. Listen, this Washington team went through a name change, and you even have the president of the United States saying, hey, bring back the old name, the Redskins. You have the drama from the previous ownership, the harassment that came to light. And right now you're in a new era. You've got a new stadium coming out. I mean, you got so many things going your way. And it's probably fair to say the Commanders were the dark horse team of 2024. One game away from the Super Bowl. They ran into the champs, who dominated in the NFC title game and in the Super Bowl. I would not be surprised if the Commanders and the Eagles have a competition similar to what we saw in the NFC North between the Vikings and the Lions, where they both battled it out for the number one spot in the conference. And the Vikings, as a 14-win team, were a wild card team. Would not surprise me if we see that in the NFC East. You just have a lot of good things going for you if you're Washington, especially with Jayden Daniels and the type of rookie season he had. I know a lot of people are expecting another big year from him, his second season. Sometimes we see this, like CJ Stroud had a great rookie year, but took a little bit of a step back his second season, did not have that second year jump that a lot of people thought he was going to have. I don't think Jayden Daniels is going to have that, especially with his skill set. Had some his rookie season did draw some comparisons to Patrick Mahomes. Now, obviously not with the numbers per se, but the way that I think Washington unexpectedly, they were one of the best football teams last season. And I think you're going to see that second year jump. There are a lot of people who are putting Jayden Daniels high on the top 10 QB list. I mean, number one's Mahomes, 2 through 4, Allen, Burrow, and Jackson, and those are interchangeable depending who you ask. But there are some people who are willing to put Jayden Daniels at 5, maybe 6, 7, even ahead of Jalen Hurts, which is mind-boggling to me, but I've already gone over that. If you're the Commanders, you gotta pay Terry McLaurin, who was second in touchdown receptions this year, especially doing on much fewer receptions than Jamar Chase. And I think at the end of the day, Terry McLaurin's a guy that you need on this football team, especially for Jayden Daniels and his progress as he gets ready for his second season. You've got a lot of good things going for you if you're Washington. There was a lot of drama in recent previous years, and a lot of that has been kind of forgotten about because of how well this football team played last year. So if you're Washington, do the right thing and pay Terry McLaurin, which is probably going to be a 3 to 4 year deal, anywhere from $90 to $100 million. I think he's worth the price. And hopefully he gets that in Washington. Michael says Chiefs versus the Commanders in the Super Bowl. Yeah, that's certainly a possibility. I would not be surprised if there's a Commanders Eagles NFC title game rematch. Kind of like how we saw the Chiefs Bengals AFC title game rematch. I think that's the type of rivalry that's going to turn into. Except the difference is that's an actual divisional rivalry, which that rivalry didn't really have much in recent years because Washington wasn't really that big of a threat, and now they are. And you know who is the biggest threat to the defending champs in that conference in the NFC? The first team I would think of, maybe Detroit, but Washington would be right behind them. I think that's how good of a team Washington is going to be. Because I heard on ESPN radio, they were talking about how they might sneak into the playoffs. I don't think the Commanders are going to sneak into the playoffs. That's a team that's going to compete for the 1 seed. And their biggest competition is going to be their division rival, which, the team that doesn't win the division ends up with the 5 seed. Don't want that, but hey, if you're a good football team, you'll be capable of winning on the road. So that'll be a lot of fun. The Commanders are going to be a fun team to watch. But hey, man, pay your wide receiver. Make him happy. All right, that'll do it for this episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. Thank you all for joining me on this Wednesday night. This is going to be the final podcast before training camp. Yes, we are closer and closer to football season. I will say this, next week, we'll have a busy set of live streams and podcasts as we are now back into football season. I will do a podcast next Wednesday. We'll do another Chiefs Zone podcast on Thursday. And next Friday, there will not be a podcast. However, it will mark the return of the Red Friday live chat. Yes, the Red Friday live chats are coming back. They were a great success last year and also in parts of the offseason whenever there was news. So I appreciate all of you guys who took part in that. The Red Friday Q&A live chat, bringing them back next Friday. It's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you guys stay tuned. Join us. Turn on the notifications, whatever you got to do. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all those places where we're going to be pushing out content. Last year was a phenomenal year for us, and I appreciate all of you guys who did that. Every year has gotten bigger and bigger, and I'm looking to make this year no different. So if you want to hop on board, have some fun, hey, this is a place to be. So this is basically, if you want to say, the last podcast of the offseason, because next week, that's when the season starts for the Chiefs. That's when training camp gets underway, and we'll have a lot to discuss in the first week of training camp. My name is Farzin Vasugian. Thank you all for joining me tonight. I will talk to you all next week. Take care.